Hello, Delsing.
Hello, Gwen. How are
So
you?
today, I'm good. I'm good. Yes, in spite of some other challenges I've got right now with this new pet in the household. She's
Two,
adorable.
two
Yeah. So
gorgeous puppies. I love them.
yes, I love them too. I do. I do. I love them. In spite of the challenges, right? Good. Here's a good example of how to rise above your limitations and appreciate the good stuff. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about complicated to simple, embracing simplicity and complexity, which is an article that you wrote. And I'd love to hear you just give us a kind of a capsule definition of what you've covered in this article. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's surprising how synchronistic your articles and mine seem to feel,
Mhm.
and this is I think this is a big subject for coaching because oftentimes our clients are trying to where are they where they're trying to sort out where they are in the forest of their life, if you will. It's like there's always a sense of overwhelm going on for all of us. Like we're all inundated with details, tasks, news, the world changing, the weather, the environment, and the things we also want to do are involved, they're complicated, they take time. Technology is always wanting us to update the software, the hardware. Everything in our life is calling for our attention, and life can feel very complicated, very overwhelming. It's like you do two things and four more things show up. So there's the complication of it and the overwhelm, and yet there's also a simplicity to everything. And the more we can be in the moment and know what we are doing and what we need to do right now, the more simple it gets. So this is the dance and the balance between complicated and simple. And the essence of what this article is saying is that you can't outthink complexity. You can't get to a point where okay, now I know all there is to know, and now I can proceed. you know um, Everything is growing in depth and complexity and intricate in its intricate nature faster than we can keep up. AI, for example. But at any given moment, at any given second, we are a human in a body, in a room, doing one thing. And we always have the capacity to tune in and focus into the one thing we're doing right now. So that is what it's about. And it's a look at, in coaching, how do we get there? And that's a large part, I think, of what a coach does, is steps into the complexity with a person, the complexity of their life, of their moment, and sees, okay, that's all going on. Everything is being acknowledged. Everything is understood now. We know kind of where you're at. What's the next step? What are you going to do right now? What are you going to do at 6 o'clock? you know and so the essence of this approach and this process, it's more akin to adjusting your focus of your eyes than looking away. It's like one of those murals or paintings that you have to adjust how you see it to see the image that's hidden in it. And that's what this kind of focus is about, is changing your focal point in your life. So yes, you see the complexity, but now you're looking at the detail.
Yeah, it makes me think of sometimes when people are overwhelmed, we clean the house, then we try to bring order. It feels better.
Yeah.
In some sense, it's like you're saying to just take a breath and a step. And how does that unfold for an individual who's coming with a lot of complexity? How do you sort through that?
Hmm. Well, to a certain degree, we all need to unload the story before we can even take anything in. So
Mhm.
oftentimes the beginning of the session is just talking and hearing how the client is doing. How are you doing? What's up? What's going on? And oftentimes there's a, just a period of the story, the unload, and it's you really have to go through that individually and in a session to be able to have the person say, okay, where am I at now? You have to unload the emotion of it or the tension of it a bit. So that's always the first step. We have to talk about it, and there's no avoiding it, I think. And that's fine. And it has the nuggets in there. It's talking about things doesn't always resolve it, but it can kind of clear it out a bit and
Mhm.
take it off the mind. That's always the first step, I would say.
A little bit like I always say, you have to be somewhere in order to have a point of view. In order to have a view, you have to know where you are, first of all,
Yeah.
right? So it's, in a sense, it's establishing where the client is. And then what are they looking at? What is the landscape? What's the view? Right?
Mm, yeah.
Mhm.
What's the vantage point?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the old wise men, all the blind wise men around the elephant, and each one's telling a different story. you know, um, so it is a journey, but also a big part of what I do in life design coaching is articulating 2 points. There is the values and the point to your life, the biggest picture you can have of your life, of who you are, your values, your mission statement, if you will, the the overarching purpose of why you're alive. And sorting out your values takes time sometimes. It takes introspection, but it's kind of this statement of who are you and what are you doing or where you're going or what do you do? What's the point? And if you can articulate that exactly to a point where it's clear enough that you can think about it and you have a sense of self, and then the next question is, what do I need to do right now to go towards that? So having the balance of these two perspectives or lenses. So if you look really far and really close, you get you don't have to do all the things in between. If you know where you're going and you know where you are right now, you can take the next step. You don't have to figure out and see and visualize every step along the way. In fact, it's impossible. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the approach.
I like how you're sort of bringing up this idea that we can find comfort with complexity. We don't have to see it as bad.
Hmm.
It's just part of life, and doesn't it doesn't necessarily have to be something that stops us.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a bit like your article where you were talking about the unknown and the unknowable. To a certain degree, we can never embrace or control or master the complexity of our situation. There's too many moving parts, too many people, too many storylines, history lines. So it's a fool's errand to try to control too much in life. You can control what you are doing right now, what you're saying, and you can control the image you carry with you around your identity, your purpose. And that's yours. That's your own. In the middle, there's all sorts of interplay that goes on that we work through, if you will.
And I imagine working through all of that sort of gives you a criteria for how you choose where you're going to put your energy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, which is, it's all part of the process, isn't it? It's just, let's sort out your priorities and let's see what you're really valuing,
Yeah.
and then let's point all of that energy and life force that you embody in that direction, and let's keep you on track. And I think that's one of the things you're really good at, is I'm honing that down into very specific avenues, and then, okay, now we're going to plot that out and we're going to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And coaching is very, it's very instructional, but not guiding.
Mm.
It's we're giving the framework of, let's focus on this. What do you what are you feeling and thinking about this in your life? We're never in a conversation about having an opinion about what you think, feel, want. It's just, okay, what is the framework that we're going to put that into so that we can understand it, see the context of it, and take the next step. So, yeah.
Mm. And I imagine that really starts to fall into place when you can see progress, when you can see how the whole process is unfolding into a result that you can depend on, that you can see, and okay, I got, here from there, I can do it again.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's laying tracks in a way.
It's laying tracks, yeah. It's kind of it's sort of establishing new habits too, isn't it?
Hmm.
Mm.
And the simplest habit, the simplest action can be very rewarding if it's done um, with continuity to some degree,
Mm.
and self-awareness. If you are present in you, having a conversation with any person, if you are present in you as you walk down the street or lift a weight, everything can be rewarding or everything can be distracting, you know. So that's
Yeah,
the simplicity of it. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to borrow a sentence right out of your article, and it says, the journey from complexity to simplicity isn't about denying complexity, but navigating it with grace. And that is a beautiful thought, I think. It's like
Yeah.
there's a sense of calm and purpose and confidence that can come
Yeah.
from knowing that things can be simple, even if we're in this complex world.
Hmm.
There's be a lot of comfort in that, I think.
Yeah. It's imagine yourself in a crazy airport, but you go get a coffee at the Starbucks and you find a corner and you put some music on and wait for your flight. You are in the most complex dynamic imaginable, an airport, you know um, and yet you don't have to be defined by it. You still have autonomy. Even if you're at a family gathering, you can still sit down, grab your coffee, and look at the painting that you remember you painted when you were a kid, and it's still on the wall. It's like it's
Yeah.
always a choice to see how you want to relate. And the real challenge is when you feel you don't have a choice.
Mm.
That's where the conversation about your life and your situation, it's in coaching, we don't go about detailing your life. We go about helping you feel that you have a choice and you are clear about what your choice is. So you can choose simplicity when firstly, you have to know you have a choice. And a lot of times is once we go from feeling I have no choice in my life, I am trapped, I am triggered. I'm locked in. I have no choice. I have no control. Well, you do. But finding that is a challenge. It can be a challenge. And it's a conversation of looking for where the choice is, looking to where the simple choice that you can make today lies, and finding it.
Well, I really like the word grace. It really has captured my attention because sometimes we think making choices is going to upset people.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'd rather just keep the status quo because I don't want to upset everybody. But I think there is a way to move into new dimensions, new paradigms without upsetting everyone, because you can have a certain non-reactive sense about yourself that people can understand is a solid thing, and then they're okay with whatever changes you want to make. This is maybe another discussion, but I think it comes from this embracing simplicity in the complex world. You get to access those deep, beautiful, quiet spaces that are kind of rare in the cacophony and the chaos and everything else that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of the end of the Truman Show, with Jim Carrey, and he's at the edge of the water, and he finds the door out of the world he's lived in his whole life, and he's about to step out of that. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know what's beyond that door. He's never been out of that door, and yet he says, if I don't see you, have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night. What have you. And the interesting thing of viewing that, and I think the point of that whole movie was the ending of it, and even more important than his choice is what everybody else does. All the viewers, they're showing all the viewers, the guy in the bath watching it, the couple, and then there's the security guards watching it. And my favorite scene from that whole movie was at first they're shocked. The entire show is over. The billion-dollar building they built around him now has no purpose. Everybody working there has no purpose. And the security guard looks at the at the TV and says, "What else is on?" And he switches the channel. And it's like, it's a beautiful little moment. It's like we think everybody's waiting and anticipating our every move, and that our decision is affecting so many people. That how can we change? How can we stop doing something? How can we be so cruel? But everybody's busy with their own life. It's not as complicated, even though it looks complicated. The world is designed to change on a dime and accept what is new. So you are free as an individual to do exactly what you want to do, much more so than you think the world is allowing you, I would say. It's my opinion. Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that movie again.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a way to live with complexity and live simply and be happy and accomplish things and be okay in the world, and
absolutely
still keep your connection in your relationships and everything else. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, the complexity of life is not your problem.
Yes, exactly.
You're not there to fix it. Make it uncomplicated or control it all. You can't.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a certain amount of acceptance that you have to have around that, I think. And maybe that's where the freedom is.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to choose freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Letting go of the idea that you're so pinnacle in everyone's life that should you stop cooking the meal, should you stop, you know, walking the dog 3 times a day, that everything will fall apart, you know, whatever the metaphor is.
Yeah, those are, well, if you're not wanting to cook and you're not wanting to walk the dog 3 times a day, you might want to rethink your lifestyle.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you can, an
your
individual
obligation.
can just change. You can just change. Oh, by the way, I'm not cooking anymore. You tell the people around you. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to order takeout. You know,
Yeah,
the
oh, that would
Uber
happen.
Eats delivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, a person's life and their choices is all up to them. And in coaching, we look to have a conversation about, well, what do you want? What's important? There's no agenda for me or you as coaches to get somebody to do anything. This is the
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah.
And of course, we are never going to tell anyone stop cooking or stop
No,
walking the dog.
it's just an
But
example. It's just an idea.
it's a good example because if someone comes and they say I don't want to cook anymore, but everyone's depending on me to put a meal on the table. Well, let's look creatively at this situation. Let's see how we can change this.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else can come cook once a week. Maybe you can order a pre-made meal from somewhere. Maybe you can enlist other people in the cooking. Maybe there's just so many things that we would suggest, to get a little bit concrete here. But
Hmm.
there's so many ways to. I don't want to say skin a cat because that's an awful thing to think about. But the so many ways that we can get creative about the things that we want to change.
Yeah. And I think the things that we are overly convinced, overly is just a judgment statement, but let's say we'll use that. Um, when you're really convinced that you have to keep going because of all these reasons, sometimes the unpacking of the reasons show openings. It's like, are you assuming is so important about this? You know, and oftentimes we assume we have no control, or we're locked in. That's really one of the biggest things in life, I think, is when we don't think we can change or aren't allowed to. So
Very
that's
true.
that's the first conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
We should have a conversation about obligation
Mm,
and choice at some point. I think that's
let's
an
do that.
interesting.
Let's
Yeah, let's do that. All right, we do
in a
that.
future episode.
Yes, that's been great. Thank you
Great.
very much, Delsing.
Thanks, Gwen. Have a great day. Okay, bye.
I'm gonna go walk the dog.
Good job.